if the 4 feels as if it needs, its love comes from feeling very unique and special. That I would take that little bit of litmus there and ask yourself, I don't so much sense that in you. You know, that's that specific need within the, I think that's a defining need. I think one of the things that you can look at in every one of the personality types is what's the defining craving for love. That's the best way to put it. That each one of us, when we're born, we are born built in to need, right? To need security, to need love, to need relationship. I mean, there's no way around it, right? You're born, if you don't have relationship and security and love, you're gonna die. And that goes on for a number of years. So I think that the defining point in looking at your Enneagram personality, no matter where it is, and no matter what level of stress you're in, or maturity, or development, or underdevelopment, or whatever, is to see if you can see what's the best way for you to feel loved. And out of that, what loved and protected, out of that can be the discernment for you of, okay, so maybe that's more my personality type that I lean into, because that's what I've been seeking in the way I've sought it over my journey. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think if all else fails, that's what you do. I kept trying to go away from a 9 and 8 and tell myself I'm this, that, and the other thing every single time. But every single time I go back and study the 8, and I find what the 8 needs about safety and vulnerability and needing to feel strong and needing to feel protected. I can't get away from that. I got to say, no matter how much I feel like I've got other traits in me, that is the vein that runs through me.
Well, when I read the stories in the book about the 4s, I fit.
Then I would say
I'm very much an introvert, very much an introvert.
Yep. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. But you know, there can be an introvert in every single personality style. But if we were to go in and look at the match of the Myers-Briggs against the personality types, you can see that personality types have both introvert and extrovert in each personality type, expressed in each personality type.
All right.
I know. I mean, I'm so glad you're bringing this up, Noni, because even when we get to the end of this, and Noni, I think you have to go with your instinct. You have so much creativity. You have so much feeling in you. You have so much of what I feel is heavy 4. You really do have heavy 4.
Yeah.
And what I don't know, and I can't remember off the top of my head, is who are the 2 numbers that go to the 4?
Let's see if I got
2. A good, healthy 2 goes toward 4.
Okay, a healthy 2 goes towards 4, and I think an unhealthy 8 goes to a 4. Leave me alone. I just want to be so alone.
Find my diagrams.
Noni, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Would you say looking back at your life, that you were always a 4?
Ziggy, no.
Probably.
Because I'm a shy introvert, but here I am in 2022, and I'm still a shy introvert, but I sure talk a lot.
Yeah, this is good. This is such a good conversation. And you know what I want you to do with this? We got to do the 9 now. But what I really want to do with this is, Noni, I'm so excited. This is exactly what every one of us has to do. We have to talk to each other. We have to talk this out in our next 2 sessions. We have to talk out with each other and figure out what we've heard, what we've read, what we think, so that we can move forward in it. Because it's not easy. It's not meant to be easy. It's not meant to be a quick snap. Some people are pretty clear about what they are. I have struggled with my identity many, many times around it and had to keep coming back and forth on it. And of course, there's a lot of prayer that goes into this, and you know, resting in the Spirit to lead us and reveal to us. But I do want to say, Noni, in your case, I mean, I think so much of you is expressed in the 4 that I wouldn't be surprised if no matter what the other things say, you may have strong parts of them, that you are definitely a 4, especially when you look at the childhood wound of a 4
Mm,
and the worldview of the 4.
yep.
Yeah.
I'll reread that chapter because I'll have to anyway, because I'm
Yeah.
ended up at 9. Now, I'll continue from there.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't want to say who you are because you have to say who you are.
Oh, absolutely.
All
But
right.
you got me thinking.
Good. I'm glad, Noni. Yay. Everybody thinking. All right. Okay. So are we ready now to look at the
Yep.
9? This is a big one. 9 is a big one. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
All right. Here we go. Let's get this up here. All right. Now, how is that for seeing for you all?
Very good.
That's
Good.
good.
Okay, I got to go over to my other one for just 1 second before we get started because I want to, I've got to get you, I've got 2 computers going here so that I can see you, all of you, while we
You must have a real control room going there.
I do.
Well, I saw that
do.
big microphone. That's professional.
Well, when I do the broadcast on Sundays, that's what, when you hear the radio broadcast, I have to use that with a bunch of equipment in order for those broadcasts to come out sounding decent. All right, so here we are, personality 9. Okay, so our personality 9 is this is a quote from Virginia Woolf. You cannot find peace by avoiding life. Pleasant, laid back, and accommodating, they are motivated by a need to keep the peace, merge with others, and avoid conflict. They're part of the anger triad of 8, 9, and 1, and they're driven by anger, but believe me, 9s would never admit they feel angry. They take in and respond to life instinctually or through the gut level, and they tend to express themselves honestly and directly. Now, look, you see what's here. 9s externalize anger. That's why I can sometimes have a potty mouth. That's 8s. 9s, forget it. They just don't even know it's there. Don't even think about it. And 1s internalize it. You see what I mean? The difference between forgetting and internalizing. You feel
No.
it when you're angry and you internalize, you feel it. You feel yourself pushing it down. Okay. 9s will completely forget that they're angry. They so avoid conflict and so want to be merge and be one with people that they won't even notice that they're angry. It's not like, oh, I'm angry, I have to stuff it. They just forget it. So it's a very unique thing. If you're a 9, you may never have, you may say, I can't even imagine feeling anger. So the deadly sin of a 9 is sloth. For 9, sloth refers not to physical, but spiritual laziness. And 9s fall asleep to their own priorities, personal development, and responsibility for becoming their own person. This is because they work very hard to merge with others and understand others, okay? So they get tired. So healthy 9s are natural mediators. They see the value and perspective of other people and can harmonize what seems to be irreconcilable points of view. They are unselfish, flexible, and inclusive. These 9s are seldom attached to their own way of seeing and doing things. They've learned to make decisions based on the right priorities. They are inspiring, self-actualizing people. Now that's a 9 that's worked a long time on themselves and has wanted to work on themselves and gone through the barriers of their struggles to relax into the gifts that they have. Now, the average 9 while they come off as sweet and easygoing, are stubborn and out of touch with their anger. These 9s overlook themselves. Though they generally feel unimportant, they occasionally wake up and realize they have to work on investing in themselves. They are willing to stand up for justice on behalf of others, but would not likely risk doing as much standing up for themselves. They don't,
You don't ask.
they don't ask, that's it. They don't ask for much. They appreciate what others do for them. Now, the unhealthy 9 has trouble making decisions and becoming overly dependent. To dull feelings and sadness and anger, they engage in numbing behaviors. Struggling to maintain the illusion that all is well, they can vacillate between acquiescence and open hostility. Have you ever either A, had that sense yourself or experienced someone in any one of those levels?
Yeah, but see, now I came out as a 9, but I know when I'm angry usually.
Well-
and I do stuff it. And that's why I have major depression, because I was taught as a kid, don't be angry. And although my parents were very angry people. So I don't know.
Well,
Not a toy.
now we've got to go on here because remember, different 9s are different, right? And so what that means that different 9s are different is that when we get into the wings, remember the wings, how they make things different? So a 9 with a strong 8 wing is very different than a 9 with a strong 1 wing. Okay. So it doesn't necessarily mean what you're reading what you're hearing right now is the full story, but this is what we're looking at first is kind of the deepest level of the 9. Okay. Just the deepest level within them. Okay. Within us. So now, John Waters and Rona Pfeiffer Ritchie say 9s are the sweethearts of the Enneagram. When 9s are spiritually mature, they are chill, easygoing people who know how to relax and go with the flow of life. Adaptable and even tempered, they don't sweat the small stuff. The least controlling number of the Enneagram, 9s allow life to unfold naturally, and they offer others the freedom and the space to grow in their own time and way. They are quick to love, slow to judge, and rarely ask to be recognized for the effort they put into caring for other people. They're free and easy, down-to-earth, practical people who are eminently likable. 9s are also no strangers to the principle of inertia. They know from experience that a body at rest stays at rest. When overwhelmed with too many things to do, too many decisions to make, or the upsetting prospect of change, 9s can slow to a crawl. They can come to a full stop. They know it might take a lot of energy if they come to a full stop, they know it might take a lot of energy for them to get going again. Okay, so back to this explanation of sloth. The 9's deadly sin. The deadly sin of a 9 is sloth, a word we usually associate with physical laziness, but that's not so. That's not exactly what this means. The sloth of 9s, however, is spiritual in nature. Average 9s are disconnected from the passion and motivational drive necessary to rise up and live their one wild and precious life. The sloth is in not wanting to claim their own life.
Yeah.
Immature 9s don't fully connect to the fire in the belly they need to chase after their God-given gift, their God-given life, and as a result, fail to become their own person. For 9, sloth has to do with their desire to not be overly bothered by life. They literally don't want life to get to them. They cling to and protect their Hukana, I can't even say that word. I love
What the
it.
heck is that?
Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata.
Oh, okay.
Matata.
I know that.
Inner harmony, their inner harmony. They ask little of life and hope life returns the favor. Nines can be out of touch with their gut and underexpress their anger. They are out of touch with the good side of anger, the part that inspires, drives change, moves things along, and gives them courage to stand up for themselves. Go on, you stop it. That's enough. No, knock it off. Go on. Oh, the puppy's feeling better. Most definitely not a 9. Knock it off. Okay, so the failure to risk fully engaging in life stems in part from 9's need to avoid conflict at all costs. 9's so value feeling comfortable and tranquil, maintaining the status quo, and preserving connections with others that they set aside their own viewpoints and aspirations to merge with those of others. This doesn't seem like a big deal for peacemakers, who often grew up feeling like neither their presence nor priorities mattered much to others. If you are a 9 and you're like, as children, they're really wonderful, warm, sensitive children. The struggle for a 9, and society just does this, is the problem for 9 is that because they were looking to be so connected and so kind, that 9s tended to be ignored. They weren't going to ask for this or fight for that. They were always trying to get along and make everybody else get along. So you see how they kind of disappear in a crowd? That's a very painful thing for a child, especially when they're doing such a beautiful thing. So nines can think, why rock the boat when nothing I say or do ever seems to make much of a difference in the world anyway? Wouldn't it be easier and more comfortable not to assert my priorities and take the path of least resistance?
That's the sloth.
But it's not sloth like we normally think of it.
Right.
Right.
To cope with having countless things to do and not knowing where to start, to avoid the backlog of unanswered questions and postponed decisions crying out for their attention, to keep their anger out of view, and to buoy a low self-esteem, 9s lean on unhealthy coping strategies. They will often turn to food, sex, drinking, exercise, shopping, and the reassuring comfort of habits and routines, performing mindless busy work or vegging out on the couch and watching TV to numb out and ignore their feelings, wants, and desires. But 9s should take heart. They are more courageous and resourceful than they know. Remember, on the Enneagram, any numbers blight is merely a distortion of the numbers blessing. Now, all about the 9s or the peacemaker. 9s share several common traits that characterize them as a group, like self-forgetting, difficulty making decisions, and a tendency to be easily distracted. So self-forgetting and merging, one of the struggles for a 9. 9s forget their opinions, preferences, and priorities. Instead, they merge with the feelings, viewpoints, and pursuits of others, and in so doing, they erase themselves. They neglect their soul's summon to identify, name, and assert what they want in life and go hard after it. They can merge so deeply with the life program and identity of another that they eventually mistake the other's feelings, opinions, successes, and aspirations as their own.
Boy, am I so not a 9.
Perched
I
at
never
the-
disappear.
perched at the summit of the Enneagram, 9s enjoy an unobstructed view of the world. From this vantage point, they not only have the benefit of seeing the world the way every other number sees it, but they also naturally incorporate into themselves a measure of the core characteristic strengths associated with every type. Rizzo and Hudson observe nines can embody the idealism of the ones, the kindness of twos, the attractiveness of threes, the creativity of fours. Hear that, Noni? The intellectual horsepower of the fives, the loyalty of the sixes, the optimism and adventurousness of the sevens, and the strength of the eights. They own the only that should be the only type the nine is not likely to see is the nine itself.
Okay.
Average nines have less stamina and energy than any other number on the Enneagram. There are often a lot of unfinished projects in the nine's wake.
Oh, well, maybe I am a 9. I'm actually a 7 out of control.
To avoid conflict and inner turmoil, nines fall asleep to their anger. This doesn't mean it disappears, only that they have to work hard to contain it. They have to constantly maintain 2 boundaries. They have 2 boundaries that they're always working on. First, to defend their inner peaceful center from being negatively affected by their outer world. And second, to defend their serene interior against being unsettled by upsetting thoughts and feelings that arise within them.
I have a sister, and we call her Cleopatra, Queen of Denial.
There you go. I saw one time a t-shirt that PBS was selling. They don't do it anymore. I wished I bought it. It was right across it. It had the head of Cleopatra, and underneath it said Queen of Denial. And I was like, that should be mine.
Yeah, but my sister refuses to hear anything that might upset her.
Yep, that's a 9. That is very, 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 very much a 9. Very much. Very perfect example. Thank you, Rosemary. So they need to defend both these borders. Plus they have to fall asleep to their anger. So you can see how they've got all of this going on. It's a lot of work to do that. It takes effort to ignore your anger and to hold up 2 boundaries. It's no wonder they feel inexplicably tired so much of the time. Think about that. Think about that. Think about where your energy is. If you think you're a 9, think about whether or not you find yourself, kind of weary often or exhausted.
Yeah.
When 9s feel overwhelmed, like when conflict threatens to arise or people are telling them what to do, or people are telling them what to do. Or sometimes for no reason at all, they tune out and withdraw to a place in their minds that the Enneagram teachers call 9's inner sanctum.
Ah, yes.
They uncouple from their anger and life energy and ignore the call to action on something. They just go into their own world. While in their inner sanctum, these are some of the things that can happen. This is what 9s have reported over studies. That while in their inner sanctum, they replay past events or conversations and what they wish they said or done differently. If anxiety pushes them to retreat, they may be thinking, why am I upset right now? Is this my fault or someone else's? Or they simply retreat to reconnect or recover their comforting sense of inner peace. If this goes on and that kind of retreat and pull away into the inner sanctum goes on too much because of whatever's going on, they can become increasingly absent-minded and less productive when they feel that deep need to retreat too much. You know what I mean? They zone out. You zone out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
She's all right. She's okay. It's okay. She needs paper. Let her eat paper so you can pay attention. Let her be a maniac. We'll resuscitate her later. 9s often. Should I just say that in front of you? That's an 8.
Really.
That's an 8. That's an 8.
We'll have
We'll
to
resuscitate her later.
resuscitate
9s often become jacks of all trade, but masters of none. They are generalists who, because they know a little bit about a lot, are very enjoyable conversationalists. When they are stressed, they can tend to meander and lose track of where they're going with their own conversation. Now, the next one that this is a common struggle for nines, is ambivalence and decision-making. Nines frequently feel torn between wanting to please others and wanting to defy them. When faced with having to make a decision, this or a similar conversation might go on in their heads. Do I think this is a good idea or not? Do I want to do this or don't I? Do I say yes to this person's request or do I say no and risk disconnection? Because there are so many angles from which to examine an issue, so many factors to take into considerations, and so many pros and cons, nines often never get to making the decision. They sit on the fence and agonize while waiting for someone else to decide or for the situation to naturally work itself out on its own. Remember, just keep remembering while I'm telling you all this of the 9 being at the top and being able to see so clearly everybody else's way of being, and imagine how much that input struggles with them. Most of us like an 8, just like we're annoyed that you're not how we are. We're not busy looking at how we can see all the aspects of the rest of you. We just just be like me or be behind me and follow. Like, that's it. You know, we have to work on that. But a 9 has all that tender experience of every personality trait. So you see how that's hard on a 9?
Yeah.
It's very hard. It's very hard. Though you may not pick up on it at first, the more you pressure a 9 to make a decision or do something, the more they quietly dig their heels in and resist. People who want to help a 9 need to realize how important it is not to rob them of whatever choices they do make. If a 9 tells you, I want to go to this restaurant, and they'll never tell you what restaurant they want to go to. When they tell you the restaurant they want to go to, oh, yes, let's go there. That's fabulous.
I know, really, because I'll defer to everybody else. Yeah,
I agree with that too.
yeah.
Key, you want to go for a walk, you want to take a bike ride, you want to go play in the garden. What did the 9 say? The 9 said, play in the garden. Go play in the garden with them. Yay, they decided. Okay. 9s can see all points of view, and they see them as equally valid. Their ability to see two sides of everything makes them excellent mediators. Now, this is how good they are. 9s are so good at seeing and identifying with every point of view that people often walk away feeling that the 9 not only understood them, but also agreed with them, even though the 9 never actually said they did. I have a couple of friends that are 9s, and I have to be really careful with them because, I'm so there that sometimes they're such good listeners. 9s are such good listeners that I have to back off and say, well, what do you think? Because the 9 will just let me keep talking.
Right.
Oh, dear.
Never mind.
Well, that's because 9s still want to get angry. So we don't want to get you angry. That's all.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
Excellent. You know what? You're in my triad. Suck it up, Cupcake.
I know.
All 3 of us are 9, a 1, and an 8 are all in anger together, kids.
I
know. Don't you just hate to hear that? That's the truth.
I do.
Take it from your extroverted anger friend.
I know.
A task for growing 9s is to discern and declare which of 2 points of views is most acceptable from their point of view. It is important for them to learn how to identify, give voice, and stick to their own point of view, regardless of how much pressure they feel to change it in the moment to appease others. A related challenge is the conundrum of prioritizing tasks over others. Since all undertakings seem equally important to 9s, it's hard for them to decide what to tackle first. Now, lists can be very important to 9s to help them stay on track. Although they may resist a list with tasks prioritized for the week, it can help them to avoid drifting into doing the next thing that presents itself and
Yeah.
not getting done what they really want to accomplish. But that you see that whole tendency in the 9 to want to please, want to be in the moment, want to do that. It can, like, that you could get to the end of the week and say, rats, I didn't get this done. I didn't get that done because you just went for the next most important thing because you're not going to defend your priority. That's why a list with priorities can be very helpful to a 9 because it can help you if you're looking at it, even though you don't like to look at it. It can help you say, no, I really have to do this thing. My priority list is telling me what's important.
Yeah, yeah.
That's important for 9s.
It would
Now-
also be difficult for 9s, though,
Yes,
to
very.
assign priorities if they have trouble making decisions.
Well,
Mhm.
but that's true. But there are, I think that most of us, when you think about spiritual practice, the practice of settling down, being silent, praying, and then, like even journaling all the things that are important to you, and then continuing to pray and let the Spirit help you discern your priority. I think that can be in our practice as Christians, and with the power of the Spirit, we have that gift from God to be able to trust that the Spirit will help us, because the Spirit helping us inside, that's our gift from God, is a Spirit that desires us to fully express ourselves for who we are individually to the glory of God in the world. So that means that even though it might feel really hard to do a list of priorities, with good prayer and gentleness on yourself, you can grow into trusting that voice inside you that's really seeking the best expression of yourself. That's what we get taught by Christ.
When I said it, it was more in sympathy, not as providing an excuse.
And I'm not saying what I'm saying out of anything other than providing a way,
Right.
because it is hard. It's very hard. When faced with having to wake up and address their own priorities, 9s will sometimes focus on inessential tasks and leave the more essential ones until last, just what you're talking about, Nancy. This is a defensive maneuver on the part of the 9 to turn their attention away from identifying their own life priorities, having to feel their anger and act on their own behalf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
9s are easily pulled away by distractions. Everyone else's priorities are more important than theirs. Such distractions are a great way to self-forget and avoid the pain of not knowing what you want in life.
Mm.
9s as children. Many 9s grew up in homes where they either were or perceived themselves to be overlooked, and where their preferences, opinions, or feelings were of less importance than those of others. The wounding message 9s heard is, your wants, opinions, desires, and presence don't matter much. This isn't for every 9, but this is a big wounding that happens to a lot of 9s. 9s as kids are very easy to be with. They're not always the first ones to jump into activities or shoot their hand up to answer a question in class, but they bring harmony and cheer wherever they go. As kids, 9s feel very uncomfortable when there's conflict between parents and other family members. So they'll try to play the role of mediator while looking for a place to stand where they won't be forced to choose a side.
Hey, Jack, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
As we're reading this, I think of Danny.
Mhm.
As a kid in school, he constantly got the Good Citizenship Award in every class. He was considered Mr. Congeniality, and you could never, ever piss this kid off. I never saw him mad. He played all kinds of sports and he played hard and he played rough sports, and I never saw him get angry. And the difference is he was great to have as a son. And like I've always said, one of my joys in life is being his dad. But we never, his opinions and ideas were always important. That's the difference. I just wonder if I can't figure out somehow for Dan to read some of this Enneagram stuff. It could help him a lot.
I think it could. And I would say one thing key, just listening to you and Dan over time, and especially listening to Dan say things like, well, his relation, when he talked about his relationship with his wife as one in which she was very strong, and that he
Very
would
much
always
so.
go along, and he would always go along with whatever she said.
Oh,
And
she
he
was an
said-
8. She was
But
an
I'm
8.
just saying, he said, he
Yeah.
clearly said, I knew what I was doing, but I went ahead, I went along with what she said. And that's very much a 9, to go
He
along
never,
with
he
the
never
other.
he never wanted to rock the boat.
Yeah. So I think.
Yeah, I don't know if he's in that triad. I believe so, but
Yeah.
he would have to make his own decision.
Yep, but I think that's, Andy, thank you very much for that, because that's another thing, as parents who have children that we love, or friends that we know and love, or brothers and sisters that we know and love, when we hear these and we can feel them, it can actually allow us to love them even better. That's the other thing that's beautiful about the 9. We don't have to say this guy's this or that guy's that, or this girl's this or that. But when we hear a certain behavior, we can then have more of a heart for our brothers and sisters and our sons and our daughters and our friends and our neighbors, because we understand they're expressing themselves out of who they are.
Yeah, I've seen him go from a lot of these characteristics of the 9, also the 8, because when he wanted something, he went for it.
Yeah, well, that's, again, we're going to get into wings.
What's the one? What's the one?
Well, we'll see it. Well, let's
Okay,
get
all right,
there.
all right.
Let's keep going here, because we're going to get to that in a couple minutes. Okay, so 9s always have their special play. Okay, so mature 9s make wonderful partners, parents, and friends. Loyal and kind, they will go above and beyond the call of duty to support you. They're fun, flexible, and don't complain much. They love life's simplest pleasures. 9s always have their special place in a home where they can retreat to, be quiet, and engage in an activity that enhances their experience of peacefulness. A healthy 9 is someone who has woken up and found their voice or come into their own. They know they're important enough to invest in, and that they matter in the lives of their family, friends, and coworkers. A healthy 9 is spiritually inspiring. They're receptive to the world, yet not so open or lacking in boundaries that they lose their sense of self-definition. 9s who are asleep get in trouble in relationship when conflict arises. And when doesn't it? And they refuse to acknowledge and resolve it. Denial is a big defense mechanism for the 9. Because they want to avoid conflict and pain and painful conversations, others have to hold 9's feet to the fire to address serious problems in relationships. Their desire to skirt conflict and to fuse with another person is so strong that 9s will cling to relationships long past their expiration date.
Ah, that is so like me, yes.
Now the wings. Here we go, Andy. Here's the wings. 9s with an 8 wing. This is one of the most complex combinations on the Enneagram. Given the 8's need to go against power and the 9's need to avoid conflict. 8s are energized by anger, while 9s avoid it at all costs. Talk about a walking contradiction. These two numbers bring a new twist to the opposite attracts cliche. It's also a powerful place within the system. More energized, confident, stubborn, outgoing, and inner directed than the 9 with a 1 wing. 9 with an 8 wings have more access to anger and express it more openly if they or others are threatened.
I agree with that.
I have a I had this dear friend that I worked with years ago, and we were cleaning up a nursery at church, and we needed to get the rug out because the rug had been there for a long time, and there wasn't even any point trying to clean it. It was so dirty and filthy, and I didn't want any babies crawling on it. Really, the only thing to do was roll it up and burn it. And so we're pulling it out of the room, and okay, the 9 says we're rolling it up, we're burning it, that's it. The 8. And my friend the 9 comes up to me because she's an 8 she's a 9 with an 8 wing, and she comes up and she goes, "You can't just roll up that rug and throw it away. There are people who put that rug in, and there's people who have used that rug for years, and it's unfair for you to just go ahead and take that rug without talking to anybody about it."
And then she apologized.
And then I looked at her and I said, her name was Lou, and I said, "So now, Lou, let me ask you this. You want to die in a ditch for this rug?"
Oh, gosh.
She looked at me. She was shocked.
That sounds familiar with a few of my friends too.
I was just like, "You're going to fight for justice on an old,
And a rug.
moldy, awful rug." Really? Really? I mean, I get your feelings, but I just can't agree. But I'm just saying that was it. That was that 8. That was that 9 with the 8 wing. The anger could come up, but what it would come up for was fighting for justice for others. And the justice for others was whoever 10, 12 years ago put the rug in there should know the rug was being picked up and rolled up and burned, because it wasn't just that they wouldn't know and get a chance to be in on the decision. So but you see what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah.
So the 8 wing, so though they will sometimes change their mind, 9s with 8 wings find it much easier to be clear and direct about things that are important to them. Although the 8 wing doesn't make it more likely that they will act on their own behalf, like I just told you with Lou, they are energetic and acting on the behalf of the underdog and the common good. These 9s tend to be more confrontational than other 9s, but they are also quick to be conciliatory. So now the 9 with the 1 wing. 9s with a 1 wing, that's the perfectionist, have a strong sense of the difference between right and wrong. 1 energy helps these 9s stay a little more focused, so they're able to accomplish more, which enhances their confidence. 9s with the 1 wing are more critical, orderly, introverted, and passive aggressive than other 9s. Because of their concern about matters of right and wrong, they're apt to be involved in peacemaking efforts or other social justice causes. These 9s are principled and modest as leaders, and people want to follow them because of their integrity and their steadfastness. So now let's look at stress and security. When a 9 is stressed, if they start to act like unhealthy 6s, the loyalist, they become overcommitted, worried, rigid, wary of others, and anxious, even though they don't know why. These 9s become more self-doubting, which makes decision-making even more difficult than usual. Interestingly, they also become reactive, a big departure for a number that is rarely, if ever, quick to react. So if these things are happening in your 9ness, you know that's like a big red flag flying in front of you that says you need to take care of yourself. Something's going on that's not settled and balanced in you. And even though you don't like to do it, it's time for you to look at you and say, what's going on? What's pressing against me so hard? Now, when a 9 feels secure and comfortable and safe in the world, they move to the positive side of the 3, where they are more goal-oriented, decisive, self-confident, and in touch with life's agenda. Flourishing 9s struggle less with inertia, take command of their lives, and believe their presence in the world matters. More importantly, 9s connect to the positive side of 3, can experience and enjoy genuine peace and harmony. Now, this is the much beautiful side of the 9, their spiritual transformation. The 9's weakness for merging is the dark side of an enviable spiritual gift. But in my mind, the spiritual advantages of being a 9 more than make up for the work they have to do in their lives. If the goal of the spiritual life is the realization of union with God, then healthy 9's ability to merge gives them a spiritual leg up on all the rest of us. When it comes to attaining a unitive knowledge of God and becoming one with Christ, healthy 9's almost always cross the finish line first. They are natural contemplatives. 9's are open and receptive in every way. Even as kids, they seem to possess an innate awareness of the sacramental dimensions of the world. They have a profound awareness of the interconnectedness of all things in creation. Lovers of the outdoors, they pick up on the presence of God in the natural world and how everything expresses God's glory. Because they value being overdoing, 9's know how to rest in God's love and share themselves more generously than the rest of us. Isn't that a sweet gift?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because 9's are able to see both sides of everything, they're comfortable with paradox and mystery, which becomes handy when it comes to dealing with religion that includes a virgin birth and a God who is both 3 and 1 at the same time. If you're a 9, be encouraged. When healthy, your capacity for merging can place you in the same league as other great 9 spiritual leaders like Pope Francis and the Dalai Lama.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. And my sister goes to mass every morning and does the rosary with her group. Yeah.
Merging with God. If nothing else, 9's should hear these words. Wake up and say yes to the adventure of your own life. Waking up will involve reclaiming personal authority and responsibility for their life. It will mean finding and resurrecting their own thoughts, passions, opinions, dreams, ambitions, and desires. This will be scary. They'll have to stop hiding and drafting behind other people. If 9's love themselves as much as they love other people, they will allow themselves to go on this adventure of becoming their own person. 9's don't like to admit it, but they're angry. I get it. I'd be angry too if I repeatedly felt overlooked. They're angry for the sacrifices they've made to keep the peace and hold relationships together. But when they get the urge to stand up for themselves or act on their own behalf, they don't do it. 9's are afraid that if they let their stored anger out, it's going to hurt or kill someone. But that's not true. It might lead to conflict, which you can survive, but not homicide.
Oh my.
9's need to know that when they discover right action and move toward it, a feeling of self-worth will emerge in them. The healing message 9's need to hear is, We see you and your life matters. God didn't invite you to this party to live someone else's life. We need you here.
Hmm.
The 10 paths to transformation for a 9. Number 1, journal on this question. What is my calling or life's program? Am I pursuing it or postponing it to keep the peace? Number 2, ask someone to help you find a task management or to-do system that will help you stay on task. There are lots of great apps out there just for this purpose. Number 3, practice saying no when someone asks you to do something you don't want to. Number 4, be aware of the numbing strategies you use to avoid having to deal with life, whether it's a glass of wine or shopping or Girl Scout cookies. Don't be afraid to have opinions and express them. You can start with small things and build up into important ones. Resist the urge to fall back into passive aggressive behaviors like procrastination and avoidance. If you feel angry, be honest and open. Number 7, understand how important and unique your voice is. People deserve to hear what you think, not have their own views mirrored back to them. Number 8, remember that what feels like intense, terrible conflict to you might just be a typical disagreement to someone else.
Ah.
Take a breath and engage.
Hmm.
Number 9, realize that your tendency to merge with others can be a beautiful gift if directed toward God. Other types envy this spiritual advantage you have, but don't fuse with other person and miss out on the chance to become your own person. And number 10, when you feel paralyzed in the face of a decision, consult someone who won't tell you what to do, but rather will help you tease out what you want to do and then do it. And that, my dear friends, is the 9. What would you like
Seems to me
say?
very important. It seems to me very important what was said in number 7 there, that it would really help 9s to learn that it's doing a good thing for other people for them to become themselves and express themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. You're
That it's
right,
really
Mary.
part of their personality to want to help other people. And then once they realize that expressing themselves and becoming themselves is helping other people.
Yeah, you're right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, because I never think that what I'm saying is important or is going to help somebody else, but there are times, yeah, people will tell me, no, that helped me to hear what you felt. And I was in a
Diverse
group-
idea,
I was in a
diverse
group.
ideas always help. Even
Well,
if
I
it's off base.
I was in a group and this woman gave me this poem. It was a Mary Oliver poem. And it's, what will you do with your one wild and what is it?
Precious
Wild-
life.
Precious life. Yeah. So when I saw that, it was like, oh God, it touched me because she said, this is so for you. She said, I want you to have this poem, and I've kept it. And I look at it and I say to myself, you need to listen to this and understand it and do it and act.
Good.
Because sometimes I'm a 9, and sometimes I don't think that people are listening to what I'm saying.
Right.
You know, it takes me 2 or 3 times to get the point across. So, but I'm getting better at that, but that's one of my faults that I have.
Well, I know I'm not a 9 because I don't have any problems expressing my opinion or getting into it, or even more importantly, getting into it with you over that.
That's
So you can
because,
pull me out as a 9.
that's
We can
because
cross
you're
that one
really a 6, Andy, that's all.
Yep, you got that right.
I'm absolutely an 8 with a 9 wing. I have so much
Yep.
9 in me. I have so much 9 in me, but I'm an 8. I'm totally, I mean, like, there's no
Yep.
doubt about the fact. So I am that weird combination of an 8 and a
I
9.
see it. I can see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, good job, Jack.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
All right. So this is,
Wow. I don't know. I mean, it's so neat that we need one of each one of them, one of every one, and every group.
it's really a beautiful thing when we can begin to realize how amazingly unique we are, but at the same time be able to see kind of foundational expressions. I
Mhm.
think it's a way, I mean, because we all have every one of these in us. It's like nobody here doesn't have some 9 in them. There probably was at least one thing that rang with you
A lot.
in the 9. And
many
when we
projects.
did the same thing with every other personality, that's what I think Christ means by helping us understand our unity with each other, our diversity and our unity. We all are in this together, but each of us has to express our own selves to bring forth the most beautiful love. We can't, you know what I'm saying? You can't be somebody else. And your call is to open up deeper and deeper to the love of God, that you can bring the most healing, reconciling, beautiful love because you're healed and reconciled with who you are. And you can see the places where you need help, and you need love, and you need support, and you know that it's okay. It doesn't make you less because you have this tendency or that tendency. But if you know what your tendency is, then you can love yourself and seek healing in those places, not because you're ever going to be perfect from it, but because you can more gently hold and embrace those things about yourself.
But that's what we share among ourselves, is
Yes.
that we're all different tendencies, and we all have our different sins, and we all have our different strengths, but we all face the same problem of having to learn who we are and having to learn how to express that. And those problems are the same for everybody, that it's equally hard for everybody to do that.
And isn't that an interesting thing? Because how often do you, from your own perspective, think somehow if you're less than, or you have more to work on than everybody else?
Oh yeah, but that's part of the Enneagram has shown me that that's not true.
But that's what I mean. That's one of the great messages, is like, we all have hard things. We all have had wounds. We all have wounds. We all have things that we're
Exactly.
struggling with, and nobody has more than another, and nobody has less than another.
And
You
we
know
all,
what I'm curious about, Jack? I'm curious as to if your literature or this technique or this philosophy is used for, say, the treatment of borderline personality disorders and things like that. And it sounds to me like people with those personality disorders are kind of out of kilter and are totally lost within these 9 categories. And sometimes, to me, it seems like they have no balance at all between any of these. Has your literature spoken of that at all?
Well, no, I think
In a more clinical form.
No, I would say that what this
You see the
tool is-
connection, though.
Yeah, what this tool has been developed for from long ago and far away. It was developed actually to begin with for professionals to use in spiritual direction and in therapy,
Yep.
to be able to identify things that are going on in people, and the way that they're seeing the world and the way that they're reacting. That was the first hunger for this tool came from psychologists and psychotherapists who wanted, and spiritual directors who wanted more tools to be able to understand people's thinking.
So I bet you there are techniques that psychologists and psychiatrists use to integrate some of this philosophy into their treatment.
I'm sure there are.
Because when you think about it, someone with a personality disorder can have a really, really strong religious conviction, but when it comes to a spirituality, it's much more muddled.
You've got a very good point, Andy, because one of the books I read, one of the Russo and Hudson books, talked about the mapping between the unhealthy versions of all of these types and common psychiatric disorders. And a schizophrenic
yeah.
type was one, and a borderline personality type was one. And I don't remember which ones mapped to which ones.
Well,
But
there's
I'll try to find
narcissistic.
that reference and send you the
Yeah.
name of the book that has it in it, because
Oh, I'm not going to read the book. I'm just curious.
Yeah, but
well,
that's.
they
yeah,
talked
right.
about it as
Right.
part of the validation of the model, that the unhealthy versions did map to this other model in the DSM-4 or whatever it is now.
Mhm.
Well,
So
that's
you're
why.
right on.
Thank you.
Right. That's why this tool, as I said, was initially generated to be used by professionals to be able to assist with understanding personality issues. So, yeah. That's the facts of it. But so at another level, it's really good for us. And let's just say this. It could be that as you're looking at and you understand yourself better, if you feel like you need to go see somebody to talk about what's going on in your life, to look, you now have a better tool to go talk to somebody. Because you can understand your own self better to go talk to a professional about if you need a sounding board to get through some things that maybe are really hard to go through on your own. I mean, I highly recommend spiritual direction and therapy to people all the time, because it's very wonderful to have somebody who's a trained professional, who's compassionate and can listen to you and help you open up and move forward, not by telling you what to do, but helping you to understand yourself better and to see where healing could be possible for yourself.
Right,
And you're never too old for that.
right.
No, there's never a time when it's not worth doing for yourself, because it can bring more freedom for you.
Well, there's all those passages in life that you need that one. You can think you have it all figured out, and then there's something happens and you go, oh, I guess I better go talk to someone.
I know.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think it reminds me of that space in Paul. Like, there's so much wisdom in scripture, where Paul says, the minute you think you know it all, but get ready for the fall.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's what he's talking about. Like, he's talking from a wisdom that says we kind of get used to one period of life, and then the next period comes and there's usually some kind of shocking transition in it. And it's always a good thing to try to take care of ourselves spiritually and mentally, as well as physically. I think the stronger we are spiritually and mentally, the more healthy the rest of our lives are, and the more love we can bring in the world. So this has been a very.
And this helps. I think the Enneagram is just so helpful to appreciate other people. It helps that you can always find something to appreciate, or to get to laugh. I go, and it's a good way to laugh at yourself, because you catch yourself, doing it. You go, oh, I know what I am, and then you go, oh yeah, there I am doing the.
Yeah, it's like, I just remember having studied the Enneagram very early on, and I was at a church, and this woman came up to me and she said to me, Jackie, you're such a sweet, loving person.
Quiet, Andy.
And I looked at her and I put my hand on her shoulder. Her name was Mary, and I said, Mary, I'm an axe murderer.
Yep, you are. You are.
Oh, gosh.
Hey, when she goes into a restaurant, she has to sit. She can't sit with her back towards the door. She has to sit at the Kit Carson seat so nobody shoots her when they come through the door.
Oh, gosh.
Is that Wild Bill? No, it was Wild Bill Hickok that had to sit with his face.
And that was Wild
Yeah,
Bill.
Wild Bill Hickok.
So at any rate, with that little trait of mine revealed.
Oh, Jack.
We all have our moments like that, though.
Yes,
Jackie, Can I tell a joke that is just exactly like your rug incident?
Yeah.
It's how many Episcopalians does it take to change a light bulb?
How many?
About 12, because you've got to have one to determine what the new light bulb is. You've got to have one to write up the survey. You've got to have one to go to the vestry. You've got to have one to talk to the people. But in fact, they finally decide that you can't change the light bulb because so-and-so put it in 30 years ago and it's sanctified.
Oh, is that why Episcopalians are in the dark?
Yes.
Oh,
But we'll be here all week. All right, listen, this is Holy Week.
that was a bad one, Andy.
Really?
Hey,
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're running very late.
all but you, Diane, you're not in the dark.
But what I want to say, I want to remind you all that, this is Holy Week. This is our week when we are in our deepest preparation to stay present to the love of God and the gift and blessing that we've received. So I'm not sure what's happening for Maundy, Thursday. We're going to have some resources. We're not going to be doing a Maundy Thursday service this week at St. Paul's. Are you, Kathy, are you guys doing one at down at the Baptist Church? No. So, but we'll have some resources online. Maundy Thursday is usually when we remember the Jesus's gift of the supper.
Right.
the Eucharist. So there's I'm sure there's resources, and like I said, we'll have some links online if you want to do that. On Good Friday, we're going to have a service. I'm not sure, given the fact that COVID's come back up and we're wearing masks at the church, I'm not sure whether I'm going to have the Maundy Thursday service at
Good Friday.
St. Paul's. Good Friday, but it will be online, whether I'm at the community room or whether I'm here at home. We will have a Good Friday service that will go from 1 to 3. 1 to 12 is going to be the service on Zoom, but we're going to leave it open to 3, and there'll be reflections, and there'll be reading reflections, and there'll be icons to look at in between as we sit vigil till 3 o'clock when we remember Christ giving up his life. So if you're interested in that, you can come to our website and you'll find the link, and you can click there and come to our Good Friday service. And you can just stop by. You don't have to be there for the whole thing. You can just stop by for whatever moment you want to just have that sense that you were present in those hours when we remember Christ giving up his life for us. So that's my announcement. Is there anything else anybody wants to say before we go?
Well, you said 3 o'clock. Is that definite that that's when Christ died?
Oh, the idea is that that Christ, the tradition of the church is to remember him being nailed to the cross at noon, and at 3 o'clock giving up his breath, giving up his spirit into God's hands.
So I take it nobody be ringing the bells either on Good Friday at St. Paul.
Well, not unless you want to run by and do it.
Typically,
Will there be Bible study tomorrow?
Yes, there will.
Okay.
All
And
right.
There was a northeastern, north central